What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and welcome back to another modern video. And then this week, I thought I ran out of decks to kind of go over in modern. To be honest with you, we just had the banning yesterday of Yori and the Sky Nomad, and you might be thinking, well, this could be a deck that kind of takes place in this new four-color landscape. Maybe we have a new streamlined version where we're just playing only the good cards and none of the really filler stuff. Well, you'd be half right in thinking that we're going to be looking at a new four color deck, but this is actually a deck that I've covered before that I think is really good and is really interesting and kind of broke out this past weekend at the 2.5K event that I went to, which was an RCQ qualifier slash qualifier for a different invitational as well. And I'm excited to look over this deck because it was really sweet watching it perform over the weekend. While it didn't win necessarily, it just looked awesome. There was a ton of people playing it, and it did very well up until very late in the tournament, where I think only one copy got into the top 8. So, with that being said, and without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at four-color Indomitable Creativity for the modern format. So here we have the Indomitable Creativity deck played by Lucker Dog, which went 6-0 in the Modern Challenge and 5th place, which means I believe they lost in the quarters, which sucks as like a result, but still very, very good, especially with how diverse the modern metagame can be. But before we get too deep into the deck and go into the nitty gritty details, be sure that if you have not already subscribed to the channel, that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you know when I post videos such as this. I go over tons of different modern decks, pioneer decks, and some other like theory videos and things like that to do with the aforementioned formats. Also, be sure to go into the description of this video and get the link to the Discord server, and go ahead and join the Discord server so we can talk about Magic and all that fun and happy stuff, because this game is great and I like to build a more interactive community kind of around it, at least for the sake of my channel and things like that. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at Indomitable Creativity. The meat and potatoes of the Indomitable Creativity deck is simple. You have the card Indomitable Creativity, the namesake of the deck. This says you destroy X target artifact and or creatures, and for each permanent destroyed this way, its controller reveals cards from the top of his or her library until they reveal an artifact or a creature card. The card is revealed, and you exile that card. Those players put the exile cards onto the battlefield, and then they shuffle their libraries. So, a few ways that we kind of make Indomitable Creativity this just super busted card is we have Archon of Cruelty as the target, if you will, for Indomitable Creativity. Archon of Cruelty says when it enters the battlefield or it attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, discards a card, loses 3 life, you draw a card and gain 3 life. So it is a cruel ultimatum essentially on a body, 6/6 flyer that will obviously get to net you a card, make your opponent discard a card, sacrifice a creature, which more than likely at this point will make it very hard for them to try to race you. And of course, like gain 3 life as well. Like this card just does a lot on a body, and just getting to do it every single turn, or even like multiple times in one turn if you get a big creativity off, is pretty sweet. So how do you go about doing this? Initially, playing just more lands so you can pay a bigger cost for Indomitable Creativity. So playing cards like Explore lets you draw a card and play an additional land this turn, which gets you closer to getting to like activate your Dwarven Mines by having come into play untapped if you control 3 or more other mountains. So generally, what ends up happening is that you could just play a regular game of Magic, and then on turn 4, you could play a fetch land, go fetch up Dwarven Mine, and then cast an Indomitable Creativity X equaling 1 to destroy the dwarf token you have to turn it into an Archon. That's typically how some of these can go. You have cards like Prismari Command that can make a treasure token that could kind of pull double duty. Transmogrify is another pseudo like Indomitable Creativity card, which you exile a target creature, and then that creature's controller reveals cards from the top of their library. Till they reveal a creature card, they put that card on the battlefield and shuffle the rest into the library. This also finds an Archon of Cruelty, but this has less flexibility because Indomitable Creativity for just 1 more mana or even 2 more mana can get 2 to 3 Arcana Cruelties out of your deck. That being said, like the rest of the spells, like Fire and Ice can be a good tempo tool to like tap down, one of your opponent's lands, maybe take them off counterspell or some things of that nature. Also can draw you a card. Fire can just pick off like Ragavans and things like that, which we know is super important in this format and probably more important even with like Yorion being banned. Lightning Bolt, just kind of the same thing. It's kind of like a catch-all, if you will. You're not really enabling Delirium, so Unholy Heat's not going to be very good in the spot. So like Lightning Bolt, just having the flexibility of targeting the face as well as like other creatures, stuff like that, being 1 mana, excellent. Spell Pierce gives you some cheap interaction. You don't have to necessarily go for the combo on turn 4. So just even getting to wait 1 or 2 extra turns, being able to cast the creativity for 2 and then leave up Spell Pierce to ensure that you're able to actually get off your combo is, big game. Like getting to put 2 Archons into play, that really does end the game like the next turn if you get to attack with them. So definitely some good cheap interaction. We also have like Fable the Mirror Breaker, which is a super popular card in Pioneer and even seeing a lot of play in Modern as well. Fable obviously getting to turn into a reflection of Kiki Jiki, which will then let you copy target non-legendary creature, which, surprise, surprise, is also your Archons, which means that you're able to have hasty Archons that can essentially like double up on the trigger from the Archon of Cruelty, basically making your opponent sacrifice 2 creatures and or planeswalkers in some combination, discard 2 cards, lose 6 life, and then you get to draw 2 cards and gain 6 life, is huge. And Fable obviously demands an answer immediately, especially if you're able to put an Archon into play. Fable also getting to put a 2/2 into play, which does set up for like that turn 4, make a big thing. Or you can even attack with a Fable, make a treasure token, go get with your fetch land, go get a Dwarven Mine, and then you're able to do it X2, Indomitable Creativity X2 to then put all that, 2 Archons into play after your combat and everything. And of course, they don't have haste, so having to do it post combat is not a terrible thing either. The rest of the deck, I mean, like Ren and 6, I guess is really like the rest of the deck. This is probably the best Planeswalker in the format by far. It's demands an answer. Eventually, just getting the emblem, you can win the game with like lightning bolts or just have access to Transmogrify, Fire and Ices, so on and so forth. The mana base, to me, just off the top, looks pretty simple. Zatoria's Proving Ground, just being a triome that you could like cycle later, but also just being a good turn 1 play that you can fetch up, ensure you have all your colors of mana, and notably as a mountain, a lot of like these lands like Stomping Ground, Steam Vents, Kateria Triome, the obviously other copies of Dwarven Mine, and Blood Crypt, all of these lands are mountains. So you're able to effectively put Dwarven Mine into play untapped on turn 4. Really, the only other like mana producing lands that you have that aren't considered mountains would be Beseiju, because Beseiju at this point is just kind of a must-have against some of the other decks in the format, especially with like Hammer still being very prominent, and obviously some other niche cases where Beseiju is very good, but definitely worth having because you're more than likely just not playing it as a way to produce green mana. You're using it for its channel ability. In the sideboard, more Beseijus, Fluster Storms to kind of force through your combo. It is a little bit weaker than Spell Pierce in the sense that like Spell Pierce is any non-creature spell, so you do have the utility of like countering like a Run and 6 or like a Planeswalker, things like that, and being proactive with it. Where Flusterstorm is definitely going to be more reactive, where you get to counter target instant sorcery unless controller pays 1, and you're able to essentially make them pay 3 to like counter your spell, which is pretty big in spots. Obviously you can cast like other spells and stuff like that, and make the Flusterstorm storm count bigger. But generally, like Flusterstorm is going to be very, very good in matchups where you want to be more reactive. Nature's Claim again, like there's definitely people that still want to play like Tron, combo Tron. You have the other types of aggro, like the Hammer deck, for example, and things like that, also just very, very powerful. Veil of Summer, a card that, if everyone remembers, like when it came out, everyone wanted this card banned because it was such a good hate card. Shows up again and definitely can help you against the other like black base decks. Like Necromentia and Thoughtseize can be pretty huge against you, just getting able to take like Indomitable Creativities or even just take away like the Archons and just eliminate almost all of your threats like in post board games. As you can see here, there's an Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, which is another good card to basically get, because a lot of the spells in the format, I don't even think there's really anything that gets rid of an Emrakul the Aeon's Torn, minus like a Liliana the Veil, which um, obviously you have like Veil Summers and things like that for to kind of combat those. Lastly, you have like Force of Vigor, which is probably one of the best 2 for 2 of the forces, because I think it's really the only force that can 2 for 2. And then you have Leyline of the Void. You are pretty weak to the graveyard-based decks, so just having 4 Leyline of the Void in your deck, just wipe your hands clean of it and be done with it. And that's the Indomitable Creativity deck. This isn't necessarily different from like the previous Indomitable Creativity decks that we've seen. Archon of Cruelty has been the go-to since it's been printed. We've seen it a lot with like the Persist, Unmarked Grave, like combo decks, if you will, that just want to put an Archon into the bin and then get it into play as soon as possible. Well, this deck might just be a turn slower. It does have some combo potential to just go and get 2 of them on the same turn, or even just going to get one of them a turn later is not that bad, with the option of getting multiples just from one spell, which is amazing. Also, again, just being a little bit more reactive from like the Spell Pierce, Prismari commands, and Fire Ice to be like a little bit more proactive, even like Lightning Bolt in a sense, and just getting to play this like Ren in 6 game 2, where you just get to keep putting cards in your hand. Like if again like Triome and stuff like that, you're able to like cycle it, pick it up with Ren, and then just like be able to draw an extra card every turn, which is good. You have the Kitria Triome as well. Just getting to pick up like Passages and things like that, you can just like eventually even Stone Rain your opponent out of the game, which is probably not a win condition anyone aims to get when playing this deck, because they probably just want to put a bunch of Archons into play and slap their opponent to death. Definitely just making sure that your opponent cannot play Magic is pretty good as well. So I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like on the video. Leave a comment down below if you would play the Indomitable Creativity deck, if you think it's dumb, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and give me your thoughts and opinions in the comment of this video. And if you have not already subscribed to the channel, you should totally do that, because we post videos like this for Modern and Pioneer, as well as some discussion videos going over banned lists and all that fun, happy stuff that most other Magic channels decide to do. And I like sharing my opinion and getting the opinions of others as well. So if that's something that interests you, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you all in the next one.